Yes, pretty sure. We'll make sure for you, Teresa. Awesome. So to get started, I'll just talk about what a target market is. So defining your target market should be one of the first steps of developing your marketing strategy. Target markets give you some insight into who your marketing campaigns should be geared towards. So your target market is a specific group of people you want to reach with your marketing. They are the people most likely to buy your products, and they are typically united by some common characteristics. I've listed those on the side, but demographics, geographics, psychographics, and sociographics. So I'll just go back for one sec here. So demographics are really focused on age, sex, race, marital status, income. Geographics are location or cultural location. Your psychographics include your personality, values, opinions, and attitudes. And your sociographics are how people perceive messages based on their social backgrounds. So when you're narrowing down your target market, you really want to focus on compiling the data of your current customer. So to do this, you kind of want to focus on the age, location, spending patterns, interest, and stage of life. When you're developing the age for your target customer, this doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to put like a 22-year-old woman. You can instead focus on a range like 18 to 24. However, you don't want to have a range that's like 18 to 60. Because there's so much difference in that age range, we want to kind of narrow it down a little bit tighter so that you can have an idea of exactly who you're targeting and what's going on in their lives and how you're going to market towards that. Location. So this is really, are you selling only locally? Are you online so that customers can buy across the country or internationally? How are you reaching this wider audience? Really about where you're selling your product to. Your spending patterns really focuses on how much money does your customer have to spend? Do they have financial concerns? Are they budget shoppers? And then interests, what they like to do. So what TV shows do they watch? What other businesses do they like? Where else are they shopping? And then stage of life, you're looking at, are they college students? Are they new parents? Are they retirees? This is a little bit different than age because a college student can be in their late 20s, early 30s. So this is really about where they're at in that stage of life. The more defined you can be here, the better it will be. You'll have a more rounded idea of your target market. And so basically when you're developing this target market, what you want to do is almost come up with an ideal customer like Susie. And Susie is between the age of 22 to 26. She's in Calgary. We're only selling to her in Calgary because we're just a local shop, not online. Financially, Susie has a good disposable income. She works full-time. She's not a college student. She loves to be on trend. She likes to focus on the environment. She's vegan. You can kind of go through that and you just make up this Susie and really dive into who exactly she is. And it gives you a really strong idea of who you should be marketing to. All right. So step 2 of developing your target market is analyzing your social media analytics. So who has kind of had the opportunity to look at their social media analytics? And again, you can just put this in the chat. Right. Yes, Shelby has. Great. Awesome. Looks like most of you have, but I'll do a quick rundown about it. So looking to your website or social media analytics, which we're going to cover more in our webinar on May 7th, your analytics can tell you a lot about your audience. For example, I use this screenshot here. So as you can see, 58% of this page's fans are men, 41% of women, and they're aged between 25 and 34, and mostly in the States, but some in the UK. So in this situation, you really market towards that group of people. You really want to focus on that 25 to 34 age range, maybe a little more on the male side, but you also can focus on the female aspect because a lot of times in a household, women have the buying power, but this kind of gives you an idea of where to start if you're looking at your target market. This can also help you with those who are interacting with your brand, but maybe they're not customers yet. Facebook Audience Insights also gives you information on what other pages they like. So you can see if they've liked other shops in your area, or if they're interacting with certain magazines or television shows. It gives you a really well-rounded idea of how to kind of reach those customers. And Ron or Rose, how you reach this, I put this on the side here. So when you click on your business page on Facebook, at the top, you can see something that says Insights, and then you can click on People on the left, and that's how you get to exactly who these people are. We're going to talk more about this in our webinar on, I think it's April 30th. We're going to dive into Facebook Insights, but we'll tell you a bit about that at the end of this presentation. But yeah, this is just kind of an intro to that, and we'll dive deeper at the later webinar. So step 3, you want to be clear about the value of your product or service. So the features of a product are what the product does. So in this example, in this example, it's a cloth umbrella, it's unbreakable, it has a wood handle, but the benefits are why that matters to your customer. So in this example, it would protect you from sun and rain. Simply listing your products online is really not enough for a marketing campaign. You need to explain these benefits. Defining the benefit of your product also helps you narrow down your target audience because it gives you a clear insight into who is going to be using this product. So for this example, we'll just go very wide. Someone in Vancouver would probably be very interested in something like this because they have more of a rainy climate. Yeah, you want to look at those benefits and see who is it going to actually work for, right? So step 4, so you want to create a target market statement. A really great way to look at this is pulling everything you've compiled from the last 3 steps and putting it into one concise statement. So think of it when you go back to when you were doing your business plan and you made your value proposition or your mission statement, but this is for marketing. So a really great example is Zipcar. Zipcar is a lot like Car2Go. They do ride sharing or car sharing. So their market statement is to urban dwelling, educated, techno-savvy customers who worry about the environment that future generations will inherit. Zipcar is the car sharing service that lets you save money and reduce your carbon footprint, making you feel you've made a smart, responsible choice that demonstrates your commitment to protecting the environment. In this target statement, they're really particularly targeting those who live in an urban area, those who have a certain degree of education, they're comfortable with technology, and they're concerned about the environment. So when you're creating this for your business, depending on what your business is, you want it to say something like, our target market is gender, aged in that age range, and who live in urban or rural, and what activity do they like to do. This is kind of your guidepost, and it can be adjusted as your target market develops. But just having this as a statement will help kind of guide all of your marketing activities. Are there any questions so far? Wait a sec here. Doesn't look like it. But if you do have any questions, again, just put them in the chat and we can get to those. So step 5, testing your target market. Testing ads on social media that focus on your target market will help you ensure that you are in fact reaching the correct target market. So try creating an ad. Again, this will be discussed and we're going to walk you through step by step how to create an ad on April 30th. This ad will target just who you've defined in the last 4 steps. So when you're looking at this ad, you want it to be, does the context make sense? Do the visuals make sense with what you're saying? We're going to focus mostly on Facebook, but you can create ads on any platform. Again, to use our Zipcar example, they use their target market statement that I read to you on the last slide to create this ad. So they're targeting here in this ad a woman who's at a farmer's market. That kind of shows she's environmentally friendly. She's hitting that age range that they've kind of described. And this kind of showing what farmers market are going to do for the future of our environment. So they've really stuck with their target market statement and kind of added to that responsible choice that their target market is, that's important to them. So once this ad is complete, you can review the ad to see how successful it was and if it reached your target market like you were hoping. Again, we'll kind of go through ads and evaluating them at the webinar on April 30th, but this kind of gives you that overview. And so for this, you're just trying to create your target market with this ad. So next step and the last step is to evaluate and revisit your target market. So you can revisit your audience and research as needed. So maybe your first ad will provide you additional insight into your target market, and it'll help you adjust to hit that right target market. Maybe your business is growing and you're looking to implement a new product line. You can revisit your target market and see if that product line is going to hit that customer. So your target market can really end up being a guidepost for what you do with every step of your business. And as your business grows, your target might as well. So you can continue to develop that, like I said, and you really hit your customer if you focus on your target market and revisit it as often as possible. So next, we're going to talk about developing your social media strategy. So having a social media, sorry, I just saw a question from Eddie. Could you please make reference to situations where your target market is other businesses? Yeah, so target markets with other businesses can be tough, but it's kind of the same thing. So you want to evaluate who that business is targeting. So you kind of want to find their target market and see how your product or service can slip into that. So look at your kind of group of businesses and see who are they targeting, who are they reaching. Because if you slide into a business that sells eco-friendly clothes, but you're selling steel-toed boots, that's not really going to align with their target. So you want to look at what they're selling or what products and services they're offering and how your product or service will sit right in there. Does that kind of, hopefully that makes sense, Eddie, and we can answer more questions if you have them. But yeah, social media goals. So setting your social media goals is a lot like setting any other goals for your business. You want to have small, measurable goals. You want to continually revisit your goals. You want to give your goals actual numbers and make them time sensitive so you can adjust and make sure you're reaching those goals. A good way to look at your social media goals is using SMART goals. If you haven't heard of that, it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So really kind of narrowing down your goals to something that isn't like, I'm going to get 40,000 followers this month. You want to like bring it a little lower, like I'm going to have an engagement rate of this percentage this month, and I'm going to achieve this by posting every day content that really hits my target market. So some great social media goals include increasing your brand awareness. Increasing brand awareness will happen organically if you are marketing to that target market we talked about. Use your reach, followers, and engagement to monitor how your brand awareness is going. Driving traffic to your website. So getting traffic back to your website from your social media is the first step to selling your product. You can use Google Analytics to track this. And if you're not familiar with Google Analytics, there's tons of YouTube videos that kind of go into how to use it. But that will really give you an idea of where your traffic is coming from. Increase revenue. Facebook Pixel is a great tool for this. And what Facebook Pixel does is it shows you how many of your social media leads turned into purchases. And then social customer service. So can your customers reach you easily? What's their turnaround time for you responding to their DMs? How can they reach you through social media? Are you engaging back with your customers on social media? Try and make this something that you do all the time. The better response rate you have when people visit your social media page, the better. So you want to, yeah, as much as you can, you want to be reaching those customers with a quick response time. So it's a little different than your regular customer service, because this a lot of times is just kind of connecting with customers on that social media piece. So I'm going to pass it over to Sarah, and she's going to kind of go from here. So I think
you guys can all hear me. Yeah, awesome. I know I'm a little bit in the dark, but don't worry, my voice will carry. So Carrie was just chatting about your goals, and so once you've sort of identified what those goals are, you want to look to your strategy. So again, really important to connect everything back to your target market or your target audience. So when you're identifying your strategy, you'll want to think back to who that persona, that person is. So how does that strategy align with that audience? So consider their age, consider their interests, consider their life stage. Those are going to be really critical, because if the content that you're sharing isn't going to be resonating with that persona, you're going to have a much harder time gaining traction and building that engagement and that brand awareness. You'll want to consider the frequency of your posts. So how often is your audience going to be online, and how often then are you going to be engaging with them online? So you'll want to sort of gauge with those insights and those analytics as time goes on, what's working really well for you in terms of time of day, day of the week, those sorts of pieces, but that will take some time to flush out. So early on, you want to, again, take it back to your target audience. Is this a group of consumers that are going to be spending a lot of time online? Are they going to want to be engaging with content frequently? Or maybe they're just a group of consumers that doesn't want those additional, more inspirational pieces. They want the information and they want to learn about the service that you're offering or the product that you're selling. So you want to narrow that down as well, and you'll want to consider your content. So what content does that audience want to see? And you want to ensure that that's balanced. So we've sort of identified educating, entertaining, and inspiring. So those are 3 buckets that are really easy to identify where your content streams through. And from there, you can sort of gauge what's resonating really well with that audience. So are you educating them on the product or service that you're offering? Are you entertaining them with maybe a blog post from another business or another site that ties back into that target audience's interests that might then engage them in a different way? Or are you inspiring them? So let's say all throughout your week, you're sharing really information heavy content. And so by Friday, you're sharing something that's a bit more inspirational or changes up the content that they're seeing to give them something different. And it keeps the look and the feel of the content really dynamic, which is important as well. So then if we look to the next page, and we've got just a couple more examples with Zipcar, and I'm just trying to make sure, Carrie, you might have to help me out. I can't seem to change my slide. While we're waiting, I think I can see a couple of questions.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. If you want to answer those, I can see.
So Rose says, I post frequently. When you post, do the people who like or follow your page always see your posts? I have 350 people following and liking, but only about 130 people see my posts. So again, there's a few different things to keep in mind when it comes to those analytics and those metrics. And like Carrie touched on, we'll reference those in I think the not next week's session, but the session following, what engagement looks like. And you'll want to analyze sort of what posts you're seeing the most response to and the most engagement with, and maybe start to identify what is specific about those posts. So what time of day are those posts being scheduled or being posted? What sort of content is being shared there? You'll want to keep in mind that Facebook and all of these other platforms do have algorithms. So you'll see that content may or may not appear right at the top of someone's timeline, dependent on the algorithm and dependent on the other sort of content that they engage with. So it's something that's worth playing around with, and there's a lot of scheduling platforms that can offer some insight into that sort of thing as well. So if you're familiar with any of the scheduling platforms, like Hootsuite, let's say, or maybe even Zoho, those things will start to offer you insight as to when is a good time to post this specific bit of information on Facebook or on another platform. When are you seeing the most engagement on those channels? What time of day are people actually spending online? So there's a bit more to that, but again, they won't always see it. There's a few factors at play, but you'll want to just consider what's within your control and what's on your list that you can sort of manage and look to make changes to and see where you'll see some improvement there. So I think we've got to my next slide. So when we look back to Zipcar, if we talk about our target audience again, so Carrie spoke to that image on the right side there. And if we look on the image on the left, if we're talking target market, target audience, this is really catching people's eye. It's cohesive because it aligns with the brand colors, the brand imaging, all of those sorts of things. And the information is really timely. So when we're talking about educating, entertaining, or inspiring, given the climate right now, if we're thinking from the broader lens of COVID-19, the image on the right is probably not something that's going to resonate with a lot of people because people aren't visiting farmers markets as frequently as they used to, versus the image on the left, that's information, so it's educational, it's talking about their service, and it's telling people what has been adjusted about their business in light of COVID. So someone who lands on their page will see that information top of page, and that will resonate with people because they're aware that the update's been made in a timely way, and that I guess, that face behind the brand. It's not just content that's been scheduled and left to continue to post. That's something to keep in mind of as well. So when you are outlining your strategy and you're scheduling content in, be aware of the timeliness of the content and what's going on, I guess, outside of the bubble of your page, because things will shift and change really quickly, as we know. And so if there's content that's scheduled that's mostly to entertain and keep light, but things are actually quite serious and need to be addressed, then you'll want to shift your strategy in those ways as well.
And Sarah, we just have one more question, which maybe we can but Rose is wondering if things are all screwed up now that people are on all the time. I don't know if you want to take this. Do you want me to take it?
I don't know if screwed up per se, but things are definitely different. And again, keeping your hand on the pulse of things is really, really critical, because you have so many factors at play. You have the algorithms that are now being, I guess, sort of morphed because people are spending so much time online and they're engaging with content in new and different ways. And then you have people who maybe weren't spending tons of time online before that now are spending tons of time online. So things are shifting, that's for sure, and they'll always shift. So your algorithms won't stay the same. People won't always see the same things popping up at the top of their feed. That's always evolving, but especially in times like this, it's changing by the second. I don't know if you would add anything to that, Karen.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, like, right now, people are spending time online at different times than they usually do. And where before work or after work, you would see more traffic if you posted then, but now during work hours, people are online. So yeah, just kind of paying attention to those Facebook insights, you can kind of get an idea of where people are at and what times to post. But yeah, staying on top of those algorithms is definitely tough, but even in this COVID time with people on all the time, it stays the same with that strategy.
Okay, we'll go to the next. If we don't have any more questions, and if you do have more questions, please feel free to pop them in. There we go. Oh, too quick for me. Okay, so when we're talking about, we've gone way far ahead. One space bar will do that, hey? Look at that. Okay. Oh, it looks like we got another question from Diane. I'm going to run a Mother's Day giveaway. Should I run it as an ad? Carrie, I don't know if you want to take this one, or I can take a stab at it too, but that's to your discretion. You'll want to sort of be aware of, with Facebook, there's a few different things that are at play. So you can run ads and you can also boost your content. So if you've got content that's doing really well, that's something that you'll want to consider boosting. You won't want to be boosting things that haven't gained any traction just yet. So it's not a bad idea to try seeing what sort of organic engagement you're getting from a post before putting that investment in as an advertisement per se, because you might find that people respond really well to the content and you're able to just boost it and see a skyrocketing engagement and reach there. That's something to consider. It's tricky, I think, right now with advertisements on Facebook, because there is also just so much content. And so people, I think, also value that more organic content over an advertisement sometimes. So you have to sort of play that fine line and find the balance. It'll depend on your business as well, and what the service or product is too.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on your engagement rate as it stands. But yeah, I would say look at boosting the post if it's doing well, Diane, and then kind of take it from there. Yeah, I've noticed ads are kind of getting pushed down on your timeline just because of so much content. So I would try to run it organically and then boost it if it makes sense when it's running.
Yep. And again, come back to that, your target audience, right? Who are the people that you're targeting with the ad and with your strategy in general and overall. And if they're already spending tons of time online, then you might not need to spend the extra on the advertisement. It might be sufficient to just simply boost the post and have it reach them organically that way. Okay. So when we talk about building brand on Facebook. And what does organically mean? So that's content sort of doing its thing. You put it out there and it reaches the right people because it's tailored to that target audience. It's engaging them in a way that connects with that target audience. So it's without that extra investment of always paying for the advertisements or always having to work those behind the scenes tools. It's the content is really just speaking to your audience really powerfully. Yeah, just naturally. So building brand on Facebook specifically, we'll talk about 3 key things here. So we'll touch on consistency, we'll touch on first impressions, and we'll touch on finishing touches. So when we look at consistency, and we'll see if I can change my slide. So we'll talk about your brand colors. So have you identified your brand colors? Have you identified your brand holistically? So maybe we'll speak to that brand board piece, that last note first. So when you're fleshing out the details of your branding and your marketing strategy, it's a really nice idea to cohesively put that all together in almost a one-pager. So identify your colors.
Sorry, Sarah, I was just going to say, we're kind of losing you a little bit with your voice.
Oh.
Just so you know.
Here.
Let you know. Better? Yeah, that's better.
Okay, perfect. So speaking to your brand board, think of it almost as a vision board for your brand and your marketing strategy. So if you have 1 or 2 colors that you're going to be consistently using in your messaging, identify them there. If you've got more than that, identify those there. If you want to use a specific font in all of your messaging, you'll identify that in that branding board. You want to sort of look at what is inspiring you and inspiring the brand as well. So you can create that mood board of other images or other brands or businesses that sort of inspire you and speak to you and that target audience that you've identified as well. And that can sort of be your guiding light when you're working through all of these things. So when you look at Facebook and you look at your colors, you want those colors to resonate all throughout your page, all throughout your content. Same with your logo. So on a platform like Facebook, if you're doing any sort of imaging that's got text in it, you'll want to ensure that the text is branded consistently. If you've got your logo, is it prominent? Is that your profile photo? Is it featured in your cover photo? Is it featured in your photos consistently throughout your page? It can be as simple as adding your logo to the bottom corner, the top corner, whatever it might be of an image that you've chosen to use. And is your business information accurate? So if they go to your website, if they go to your Facebook page, are they seeing the same information? Are the hours of operation the same? Are they updated consistently? Can they rely on this page as a source of information? Because that will build trust in the brand, and you also want to avoid people having to chase you down to the answer for those questions when the information should be available to them right away. So, are you saying your header photo should remain the same? So again, you can make some choices. I would say you'll want to keep it relatively consistent, but that's not to say you can't change the photo. So let's say, for example, even if you just were to look at this slide at the top of the photo, it's clear that the business link colors are there, but the photo in the backdrop can change frequently if we wanted it to. So maybe that means you're featuring jewelry at the very top and it's a new piece once a week, once a month, whatever have you, but you've always got your logo on the corner and the center, wherever it might be. Make that piece consistent, and maybe you've got a color overlay and that stays consistent. So choose some of the pieces that will remain consistent, that will be the most prominent. So those colors, the logos, the fonts, but you can adjust those other pieces accordingly. So if we look at the next slide as an example, if we look at Zipcar, so when you land on their page, profile photo likely never changes. It's their logo. It's very evident that the colors are consistent with their brand, because this is what you'll see all throughout their page when you scroll through. You'll notice the font as well. So cars near you 24/7. That's the font that's prominent on their webpage, on their other social media channels. This ties the imaging in really well when you're on, or when your visitors aren't on your page and they're just on their timeline. So when they see that logo pop up, they know that it's you engaging, they know that it's you posting. When they see the coloring, they tie all of that back to you. And so an example here, Rose, for them could be that maybe they're adjusting their cover photo, but it's still staying, the backdrop is the consistent coloring. It's still green. Whatever text is featured is still in that same font, in that same color shade, and their logo is still prominent. So there's some flexibility there. You don't want to be changing it too frequently. And again, you'll find a balance. You want your cover photo to speak to your brand. So you don't want to utilize that as, I guess, a selling tool. So if you're posting new jewelry, that's something that you can update throughout your timeline. And if maybe your cover photo has a broader image, so it's got different types, different colors, different sorts of jewelry that, you know, when people land on your page, it gives them a holistic view of your brand versus just one sort of snippet of the brand. That will do great things for your brand awareness. So when they're able to look and say, great, there's earrings, bracelets, other types of jewelry versus an image just being of maybe one sort of jewelry and changing frequently. If they land on that page and they see a more holistic photo, that really helps with that awareness of knowing what sorts of products are available to them. Water, if there's no other questions right now. Okay. So first impressions. So as a consumer or a navigator of social media, when you land on a page, it doesn't take long for you to create that first impression of that brand. Usually happens within seconds, actually. So you want to consider how you show up when you pop onto that page or when someone pops onto your page. So think about likes and reviews. Think about your response rate. So as Carrie mentioned earlier, people can actually see your response rate when they go to send you a message. So if someone goes to send a message and Facebook lets them know that the response rate is actually 48 to 72 hours, that might discourage someone from sending that message because they might need a response within the day. So you want to be timely with those updates. You want to make sure that you're interacting and responding to people in a timely fashion, because you will have some people who may walk away, pick up the phone and call the direct line, or they may not, and that's a missed opportunity there for conversion if it's a matter of a sale that's being made. So those are things to keep in mind when people are engaging with your content as well. So if someone who actually hasn't liked your page or been on your page yet, if they're able to see your content via a friend or someone else that's shared or engaged with the content, and let's say that they like or comment themselves, Facebook does a really nice job of actually letting you know, Carrie has liked your photo. Would you like to invite her to like your page? Would you like to invite them to review your page? So those are things that you'll also want to keep tabs on, because those relationships you can start to build there versus waiting for them to navigate all the way to your page, clicking that like button themselves. It's really easy when it pops up in a notification and the option is there for them. They can make that choice in the moment. Looks like we have a couple of questions. I'm just going to scroll back because I don't want to miss anything. So is that rule with just Facebook or websites too? Again, to your discretion, depending on how much time people are spending on your web page. If it's a home page, if it's a specific landing page, you do want to maintain some consistency there. I would say for your home page and your Facebook page, you don't want to be changing those sorts of things too often. You want it to stay consistent so that when someone lands on their page, they recognize the content right away. But again, that sort of plays into that target audience. So if you've got a demographic of people who are spending a lot of time online, you might have flexibility with adjusting that more often versus a demographic of people who's maybe only visiting your website to get really important updates. They're not going to notice or care that the photo has changed. They're going to want to know, am I in the right place? Am I getting the right information? So again, it will depend on the target audience and on the business. Yes, it will be recorded. Using automated responses, does it decrease, improve your response time, or is it only calculated based on actual responses? Do you know, Carrie, actually?
It does improve your response time.
Yeah.
It's all one. So that's a great way to make sure, like you said, Diane, even after 9 p.m., that's a great way to have it is if you message Business Link on Facebook, for example, it says something like, we don't monitor this inbox continually, so please reach out to us at this email address for a quicker response. And that just, Facebook thinks that you're responding. So that is a great way to increase your response time. And then when you actually have a chance to sit down and see those messages, you can respond to the customer directly right away.
Yeah, and it's nice because even though Facebook will send that automated response, it'll still tell you have the message waiting. So you also won't have anything sort of slip through the cracks. So it's a really nice way to keep that up for sure. So back to that landing page. So when you're landing on that page, when you're landing on your page, take a look and see what's actually coming to the top. So what's catching your eye? What are you drawn to? What is actually at the top of your page? So with Facebook, it's great because you can actually pin whatever content you'd like to stay at the very top of your page. So if you have a really important, let's say COVID update that you want to remain prominent so that when people land on your page, they're seeing an update to your operating hours or to your delivery systems or what have you, that can stay there as long as you'd like it to. And that's something that you can adjust as your business shifts or as things shift out in the real world as well. You'll want to consider when the last time you posted something was too. So especially in a time like this, if you're offering a product or service and people want to understand and know how this has maybe impacted your business, you want the last sort of piece of information to have come recently, because if someone were to look at your page to see a post from, today's the 16th, let's say from even like March 20th, at this point, things have changed and evolved so quickly that that to them might not instill that confidence that that is still accurate information. So you want to ensure that everything that's at the top of the page is timely and has been posted and shared in a timely fashion, because you don't want to lose people in that regard. And this is a very particular climate that we're in. On the regular, I would say if you've got information on there that's consistently updated, and if someone were to scroll through and see that there's consistent updates made, then that's great and that's sufficient for you. You don't want to be sort of having people land on your page and seeing that there hasn't been a post for the last 30 days. That might not give them what they need. And they might not then connect that this is a platform that's monitored. And so they might not know how to connect with you or where to get the most up-to-date information from you. So when we look at finishing touches, Facebook's a really great platform for a lot of different things because there's so much that you can do with it. So in terms of creating those finishing touches, you can create and host events within Facebook, which I'm sure you are all aware of, but you can use that capability to get a little bit creative. So it doesn't mean that you're hosting an event per se. It could mean that maybe your retail space is hosting a sale over the next couple of weeks and you want to gauge interest. So you can create an event, have the details of the promotion or the sale there and see what the interest looks like if people are responding to that. Posting updates through there, you can gauge how many people have clicked that interested button or how many people are seeing the event, or maybe you can gauge, do I need to up my promotions? Do I need to maybe tone it down a little bit? That's a nice tool to sort of create a community within your broader community of your audience and your consumers. You'll want to consider your tone of voice as well. So how are you communicating on the platform? Is it still maintaining a really professional tone of voice, or are you creating a bit more personality? So do you speak in the first person? Do you speak in the third person? Instead of saying we are, do you say we're having a sale? Create some consistency there, and it brings light to the channel, and it puts a face sort of to the ground as well, which is nice because it's one thing to read updates maybe from a web page that are very information based, but when it becomes a matter of social media, you want to inject some personality and some creativity there so that people know there is someone behind the scenes that is there and that's available to respond to them, and that is human. It brings that human element back to it. And again, engagement we'll talk about in a couple more weeks, more in depth, but engaging with people is just important as a holistic strategy. If someone likes your page, likes your post, share something from your page, it takes just a few seconds to respond with a thanks for sharing, or if they've reshared on their timeline, it takes just a few seconds to like that post. Sort of those things where you can go out of your way to engage with your page visitors as well, because that in turn will up the engagement on their end. And so when you look at next steps, so after this, if you don't have a business page, I would suggest you create one. If you have any questions, you can you can most definitely send them our way. The Facebook Business Manager page and the app are also really good tools. So you can actually, if you were just a quick Google search, Business Manager page, it'll prompt you through the setup there, and that gives you some additional capabilities. So additional insights into your page, some scheduling tools, those sorts of things. So you can see the back end and what else you have access to as a page, as a business. Scheduling content, do's and don'ts. So start to identify what's working for your audience, what's working for you, what are people resonating with, and what are people just not actually seeing or engaging with. So you don't want to just reshare the same thing that you're sharing on every single platform. You want to try to mix it up. So start to monitor those things, start to be aware of what you're posting on Facebook versus Instagram, or Facebook versus your website, those sorts of pieces. And commit to maybe planning ahead. So maybe that means you create a schedule or you create a content calendar for the first few weeks, for the first few months, just to keep you on track and just to hold you accountable to measuring your success. So as you go, so you can look back and say, great, in the first week of the month, we posted a ton of images and we haven't shared a video in a few weeks. So maybe we'll change up the content this week. So you can look holistically at what future forward is for your page, and where you can start to change and evaluate what's working and maybe what's not. And again, back to creating that community. So Facebook is a really nice platform for this because there are so many things that you can utilize and take advantage of within just your page in itself. You can create those events. You can create separate groups within your page. You can simply post like a call to action and have people respond right away. It's so easy to engage with people in the comment section. So you can really start to create that community and build your brand in that way as well. Yes, it is the one with the orange flag, Rose. So the question is the Manager app the one with the orange flag? So if you're Android or Apple, I believe it's the same, but it's just a little orange flag. Any other questions? If there aren't any questions, we'll give everyone a second here, but week 2, so next week, we'll be looking at creating engaging content for your small business Facebook page specifically. So posting the right content, how to generate those content ideas, make sure you're starting conversations with that customer, that persona that you create, and how to get more value out of the time that you're putting into it, because it can feel like a lot of work, and you want to ensure that the work you're putting into it, you're seeing that return and you're seeing that engagement. So that's what we'll dive into next week. I'm just going to give it a second in case we've got some more questions, unless there's anything you want to add, Carrie.
I was just going to add, if you have any questions specific to the marketing challenge with Community Futures, then you can reach out directly to Kate and she'll be able to help you with those questions. Suzanne, are we going to share the slides? We definitely can. I'll provide them to Kate and she can share them. And we also have the recording of the webinar that you can have as well. Yeah, so absolutely. Just being authorized. The question is, does being authorized on Facebook have anything to do with your business page? Not really. Sometimes people can find you easier if you're authorized on Facebook, but not typically unless you're directly linking it to your business page. They're usually separate entities, your personal page and your business page. That's another thing people have worried about in the past is, will my personal page be seen by my business page? No, they're completely separate. So no one can see that you are the owner of your business page. No one can see that that's you, or link back to your personal page. So you don't have to worry about that kind of crossover. The business page is very separate, but you do need a personal Facebook to create a business page. So. Rose, if you want to reach out to Sarah or myself, I'll put our emails in the chat and you can reach out. Sarah, do you know how you can see a feed of the pages and of pages/accounts that your business page follows?
I don't know that you have a feed. You can certainly see the pages that you follow. But again, because you're using your personal account to manage the page, your timeline will just reflect what's in your personal account. Unless you're engaging, if you're engaging most frequently with those other pages that you follow, the algorithm again will shift and morph, and that's when you'll start to see them on your personal timeline. But there isn't, as far as I'm aware, there isn't a business page specific timeline. There's a personal page.
Yeah, you kind of, Crystal, have to go to those specific businesses and check them out. And if you're engaging with them the most, then they'll start to populate your personal feed, but it's not a separate feed. Wasn't sure if you knew a different way, Sarah.
No, I wish.
No, that would be really nice.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no more questions, then we will. Oh, there you go. Kirk said, on my business page on Facebook, there is a button at the top that says newsfeed, and it shows the businesses I follow. Thank you, Kirk. You taught us something, because I did not know that.
No, I didn't either. And Facebook's changed quite a bit in the last little while. Like even the business manager side, they just sort of looked differently, and I don't know if it's browser based or across the board.
Yeah. And another great place to get that information, I find that Hootsuite has a really great newsletter that kind of keeps on algorithms of different social medias. Yes, business pages can follow other businesses, Rose. Definitely. That's a great way to interact with your small business community in your area as well. All right. I think we're good on questions, but if you do have any more questions, you can reach out to Business Link directly and we can answer those for you. I put our emails in the chat, so feel free to reach out. But otherwise, we will hopefully see you all next week. And thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.